Can you hear me?
Yes, please, I can hear you, Mr. Oshoma. Good to have you join us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, so we're just getting reports from Rivers State that the State House of Assembly is presenting notice of gross misconduct to Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy. Did you see this coming?
Yeah, thank you once again. If nobody saw this coming with the agreement is agreement campaign that Wike had embarked on in the past few weeks in Rivers State, and the fact that everything the governor had done, the House of Assembly has rejected it, including bonus for civil servants and gifts to members of the House of Assembly. This was the only card remaining for them to play. So it was expected that they were going to play this card, and how well they play it. Also, it's a different ball game altogether in compliance with Section 188. Subsection 1 to 9 of the Constitution. And remember also, towards the tail end of the year, there was allegations that the House of Assembly had given the governor, Siminalayi Fubara, 48 hours to present the budget. So it was like they had set the ground rule for which to premise these actions. So as political observers, certainly, it was expected.
It's expected. And one of the points you mentioned there about the fact that they rejected the governor's plan to pay 100,000 naira to civil servants. They did say that it was not budgeted for, right?
Yes, they said it was not in the budget. And since it wasn't in the budget, that the governor couldn't spend, that money, extra budgetary funds. So, but we all know that by constitutional provisions, if a budget had not, the budget, even though the budget cycle ends by 31st of December, but between that 31st and March of the preceding year, the governor also has what they call anticipatory, budgetary. If the budget had not been passed between that time, it is not an offense for the governor to spend, expenditures, provided they will be captured in the budget, or when the budget is presented pending approval, the governor has, powers to spend anticipatorily between January and March.
Or between January and March. Now, let's talk about some of the allegations leveled against Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy. As a matter of fact, there are 8 of them in that motion moved by Honorable Linda Stewart, and some of them include failure to implement policy on autonomy of local government areas, seizure of salaries of Rivers Assembly lawmakers. You're smiling, Mr. Oshoma. Why so?
The policy on implementation of local government autonomy, I think that's actually a directive from the federal government that, and what is this autonomy? It really has nothing to do with the state government. Mind you, I think by virtue of the provisions of Section 157 or so, the state shall maintain an account known as the state local government joint account, which I have argued that it's not a state account, it's strictly local government account, for disbursement of local government funds. But be that as it may, I think the directive was from the federal government to all local government to open accounts with the central bank in the state. So it is for the state government, for the local federal government to disburse funds directly to local government and not to send these funds to the state government. Because all of the state governors, none of them who's, apart from Lagos State, most of the state governors that fund had been sent to the state local government consolidated account had consistently be spending that fund the way it has been. That does not mean it's not an impeachable offense, yeah, but it is the duty of the responsibility of the federal government to send these funds directly to the local government and not for it to pass through the state government account. So if there is any breach on that part, then the federal government shares 80% of the blame and not the state government. No, that's not to say that spending local government fund by the state government is not an offense. But what I'm saying is that the federal government actually shares the bulk of the blame as far as disbursing funds to local government directly. Like in Lagos State, the funds are sent directly to the local government account. So, and the local government chairmen are the signatories to those accounts. So if they eventually send those money back to the state governor, who's to blame? Is it the governor that you blame? It is the local government. Local government chairmen are not answerable to the governor in Rivers State as far as we are concerned, because most of them own allegiance to, the minister for FCT. We saw what happened with the election. So that's in itself. Anyway, these allegations, by virtue of, like I said, Section 188, certainly a 7-man panel would be set up after the governor had responded to these allegations. The notice has been sent to him. He is to respond. And after that, a 7-man panel will be set up by the chief judge of the state. And so the allegations will be interviewed. Both parties will be heard by that panel. So, and we saw it had played out in Kogi at some point. And so if the panel return a verdict of no offense, then certainly the matter is dead on arrival. So except the panel return a verdict that, yes, this offense had been proved. So it's still preliminary at this stage. And so certainly, I don't want to go into the meat of it, but I know that all of those responses would be laid out, maybe graphically, by the team of the governor. I'm not a member of his team, but I do hope that with what has happened so far, that they have a window to lay the blame where it should be.
Another allegation against the governor and his deputy is seizure of salaries of Rivers State Assembly lawmakers.
Yeah, this issue is this is not the first time. It started with the demolition of the State House of Assembly, for which all of us blame the governor, and then the matter went as far as the Supreme Court, were they decamping or not decamping, and all of that. Eventually, certainly there have been no love lost between these two arms of government, and it is unfortunately to the detriment of the people of Rivers State. And so the seizure of these House of Assembly salaries, I do not know if the House of Assembly members' salary had been seized now, currently, or before. You remember, before the interregnum, that's the administrator that you talked about. I know that the members of the House of Assembly then, there were allegations that their allowances and salaries were withheld by the governor, where you had, when he didn't recognize them, he said he didn't recognize them and he only recognized 3 members, which for me was laughable. He presented budget to 3 members, and all of that. And then the Supreme Court, came heavily at him and tongue-lashed him that was executive rascality. But I don't know if that is the allegation they are referring to. If that is the allegation they are referring to at that time, I think it has been overtaken by events. But if it's a fresh allegation of him withholding their salaries and allowances, then also they are on all fours to serve impeachment notice on the governor to remedy the situations. It is not as if these situations cannot be remedied. So it's their constitutional responsibility to checkmate the governor. So, but if these allegations are just mere allegations that had happened before the interregnum, then certainly it is what you call trouble fishing. So, but we'll just wait to see how it pans out. Like I said, this is the first major step in the steps of a very cumbersome process. Unlike before, where subsection 10 of that section 188 had said, once this process is completed, that the court lacks jurisdiction to challenge it. By virtue of the decision of the Supreme Court in Ladoja's case, also that of Peter Obi, the court has since surreptitiously, nullified that subsection 10 to say you must comply with subsection 1 to 9 strictly. And if those procedures are not complied with, then certainly the court can invalidate the process. And I also think the House of Assembly will not want to embark on a journey that might eventually be invalidated by the court, because once that happens, then it might become counterproductive for them. But I think what they are trying to do, now that we are moving to an election year, and that usually take a very long process for the court matter to start from the High Court to the Court of Appeal and then to the Supreme Court. So even if it's a kangaroo process, or even if they are not able to scale through, that will unsettle the governor, going into a second term possibly. That is if he would get it. Because the governor seems to be getting the support of his party, his new party, with the statement of the secretary to the APC. And the fact that certainly most of these members are also now in APC, and certainly their party will either call them to order or Mr. President once again might intervene. So it is just, the first step in many hurdles to cross. And then, lastly, quickly, the chief judge of the state, if the chief judge of the state decides not to constitute a panel, that means they will now have to approach the court for an order of mandamus to compel the chief judge to do that. That also will take a longer process. So it is a whole long battle. And I think you have two balance of forces in as far as the fight is concerned.
All right, so I really wanted you to walk us through the process, the steps. You've spoken that this is the first step, in a long list of hurdles that have to be crossed. Now the lawmakers have made this move. The Speaker of the State Assembly has said that he would present these notices to the governor and his deputy. So just walk us through step one, step two, just so that people at home would understand what more needs to be done in this process.
Yeah, it's a pretty process, very easy. But long hurdles if you do not put your acts together. The first step is a motion by motion supported by two-thirds majority of the House that the governor has committed impeachable offenses, that a notice should be served on him. And then once that notice is served on the governor has I think about 14 days or so within which to respond to the notice, to answer to those allegations. And if the House of Assembly feels that those allegations have been answered, creditably well, then the matter might just end there. But if they feel that the answers are not succinct enough, then they would have to write to the chief judge to constitute a panel of 7 members who are non-partisan, members of integrity, members who has integrity and who are not partisan, to look into the pros and cons. And then it's like a quasi-judicial function by these members, and who will look into it and call both parties to come present their case. Both parties would present their case for and against, and thereafter the panel would submit its report. If the report indicts the governor, then certainly the House of Assembly will not have opportunity to debate on that matter. And if it is carried by two-thirds majority of the members that that report be adopted, then the governor and his deputy stands impeached. And when they are impeached, then certainly the Speaker of the House steps in to preside over the affairs of the state for a period of, I think, 90 days, pending when an election will be conducted to fill that state, because the Speaker was not elected to become the governor. But if the report of the 7-man panel is that those allegations had not been substantiated and the governor is not indicted, then that matter would die there. Or if, though the report has indicted the governor, but the House further refused to take a further debate on it, then also the matter will end there. So there are sentiments around this. There's notice of impeachment served on a governor and his deputy. Who becomes the beneficiary? The Speaker of the House of Assembly becomes the beneficiary if they are both impeached. Then the question of natural justice would come in. This matter, the Speaker who would be a beneficiary? Can he sit as as a judge over a matter that he will benefit from? There is no known court that had said he cannot so sit. The constitutional provision is that he becomes, he acts as a governor in the period of interregnum. So that's just the process so far. But the debate would be that the Speaker would do all of these things because he wants to also become a governor. He wants to sit on the seat of the governor. So that will also sway public opinion for and against, because if it was just the governor, then it becomes the duty of the deputy to step in pending, for the term until the expiration of their tenure. But if the deputy and the governor and the deputy are impeached, then certainly the Speaker that will, benefit from the reign of that impeachment. So here now, you have Speaker Amehule, who also is presiding over an impeachment notice for governor and deputy, who, if the process succeeds, will be the beneficiary. So people are going to ask, are you doing this because you want to sit as a governor, even though you are not elected as a governor? Or are you doing this to further the political nest of your godfather, Nyesom Wike? Or truly are Rivers people not happy with the way Fubara is going about it? All of these will be answers in days to come.
Indeed, the public would definitely have something to fist up, because this matter, just like you've mentioned, has just begun and our ears are open for all of the updates coming in from Rivers State. Liberas Toshoma is a lawyer. Thank you very much for availing us your time and sharing your very rich knowledge of this issue with us on this morning.
Always my pleasure. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it.